Hello and welcome to Looking for a Man in his 30s,
Yes.
a Criminal Minds podcast. I'm Emma.
And I'm Sara, and today we'll be discussing Season 1, Episode 1, Extreme Aggressor, which first aired on September the 22nd of 2005. But first...
Before we get into an episode, we need to issue a content warning. Due to the nature of this show, we will be discussing sensitive topics, which could include murder, violence, sexual assault, domestic abuse, animal abuse, elder abuse, alcohol, drugs, racism, sexism, homophobia, transphobia, ableism, and more. Please take this into account when deciding when, where, and if to listen. So, first of all, before we get into the episode, we should have a little bit of a chat, Sara. So, elephant in the room. Oh, I wish I had a picture of an elephant to hold up at that point. Elephant in the room. This video is re-recorded because the original video corrupted, which is why in the next episode you'll see a major change in my background and the length of my roots.
Also, my terrible lighting, because for the first few episodes I had to record in my room, which is a bit dark and dingy, so I apologize.
Okay, so think back, Sara. It's January. Donald Trump is not yet the president. There's every possibility he and Vance could get struck down before the inauguration. You still have the smallest hope in Keir Starmer because at least he's not a conservative. You've only seen the pilot episode of Criminal Minds. I still have a chipped front tooth.
And I was recovering from the worst tooth infection ever that I had over Christmas and New Year.
Yeah, I remember it being really hard for you to get a dentist appointment. Mainly because you didn't, as it turns out, actually have a dentist.
No, because contacting them after the Christmas break, I found out I'd been taken off the books just after COVID. And that wasn't fun. But thank God for the emergency dentist program.
Yeah.
And I got treatment straight away, got sorted. All good.
Yeah. Do you think it's a possibility that they sent the cancellation to your old address?
Possibly.
Because I think they are supposed to notify you.
Yeah.
I remember actually getting a letter from a dentist surgery, and they were like, "Oh, hey, we're taking you off our books if you haven't made an appointment in the next month." And I was like, "I don't go to your dentist anymore." I was like, I've not been to your dentist since 2019. I don't know why you're contacting me. Anyway, so let's get into a bit of why we decided to do a Criminal Minds episode. So I'll go first. So I first watched Criminal Minds it was 2014, I think. I was dog sitting for my aunt. I was about to say babysitting. So I was dog sitting for my aunt while she was out. And so at her house, I was just having a flick through the channels, and I saw this show called Criminal Minds. And I thought, it's going to be fine to just kind of watch this afternoon while I'm waiting to take the dog out again. So I start watching, and it's actually one of the episodes from season 9, which is it was done for the anniversary of the Kennedy assassination. So I was like, ooh, interesting. And then much more interesting became Matthew Gray-Gubler, who plays Spencer Reid. And so I will admit that is why I was like, I should go back from the start and watch all of this. And so I've already seen all of the seasons from right at the from episode 1 right through to Evolutions, which is the kind of sequel, Sara. You know when Boy Meets World changed from Disney to ABC and it got a bit more adult? It's that kind of transition from the end of Criminal Minds to Criminal Minds Evolution. It's a bit darker. Like, actually, the shots are a bit darker, which is funny. And Rossi is allowed to swear. I know you don't know who Rossi is. He comes in later. But anyway, he's allowed to say the word fuck.
Yay!
So awesome. And so, Sarah, do you want to tell the viewers, listeners, a bit about being dragged along for the ride?
Yeah, so where do I start? So over the years, I've watched like crime dramas, medical dramas, bits and bats here and there. But then late last year, would you say, Emma?
Mm-hmm.
I get a message from Emma. I want to start a podcast for Criminal Minds, and I'm like, oh shit, I haven't seen it. So she's like, well, you can start, and we'll see how we get on, and make a podcast from there. So literally, as we've recorded these episodes, or as we're going to record this episode, should I say, I'm watching the episode just before we record it. So at least it's fresh in my mind.
Yeah, and Sarah also has a fresh perspective. She's not coloured by anything that comes afterwards. She's not like, ooh, that'll become important later, which is what I do much throughout the episodes. Like, ooh, pin that in your mind. It will become important in about 14 seasons.
Yeah.
That is something that I've actually done for episode 4, providing that recorded properly. Who knows? And Sarah's like, I'm not going to remember this 14 years down the line. So we'll see if when you are 40. No, oh my gosh.
I'm 50.
Oh, no, that's made me feel worse. I was like, in my head, I'll be 39 at that point. And I was like, wait a second, that's not my age plus 14. Oh, God.
Then again, although I am a newbie to Criminal Minds, I do remember your obsession with Mr. MGG back in the day.
What? I don't know what you're talking about.
I believe you mentioned him on several occasions. And I'm like,
do you think that this was also before I deleted my Facebook account? So you could see a lot on my Facebook as I shared it. And then maybe like Instagram as well. By the way, everyone, I have deleted all social medias, so Sarah is the person handling that. So please don't be mean to her. So we'll be right back after this quick break.
Welcome back to our first ever Criminal Minds podcast episode. And this is a bit where we talk a bit about the episode and discuss what happened. So Emma, wheels up.
Wheels up. So for the first and only time, I took handwritten notes. It has actually been a nightmare because last time when we recorded, I just kind of flung the notes to the floor. So none of it was in the right order. So I had to spend the last 10 minutes sitting on the floor, putting it in the right order. If it's not in the right order and you spot something, let me know. Okay, so we open on a rainy Seattle. Every show set in Seattle must show it raining, or they're not really in Seattle. So there's a woman, she's sitting at a desk. We learn her name is Heather, and she is looking at, frankly, a really ugly car that someone is selling really cheap. And she looks like she's using MSN to, like, IM the guy. But yeah, Heather is using a kind of MSN dupe, which kind of really dates the episode, or really puts the episode in its time, whichever you feel. So she goes out of her office. A man in a like RAINN hood picks her up for the test drive. He says, hey, do you want to look under the hood? And it's kind of like, oh, that's a normal question to ask if someone's buying a car. Do they want to look under the bonnet? Bonnet for UK listeners is the same as hood for the US. And But it's also kind of a little bit of a like, oh, would you like to look under my hood? You can, because you're not going to be able to identify me. I feel like that is his whole play behind that. So she's taken the test drive. It's gone really well. She's looked under the hood of the car, presumably, and he's driving her back. Everything is fine until she realizes that he misses her exit. And she's like, oh, hey, no, it's just that one back there. You've just missed it. But he keeps driving. And she's like, hello? Are you listening to me? You missed the... And then he locks the car. She realizes she can't jump out of the moving car. And then he just turns and punches her full on in the head, which was really shocking, actually, watching it. That was pretty disturbing.
Yeah, it was.
And the sad thing is that this would also probably work on me, because I buy a lot of stuff like secondhand through like Facebook Marketplace or Olio. And so I'm very much used to just turning up to a stranger's house and being like, hi. Once it was about 5 months ago, Sarah, I was going to pick up some jewelry from this woman who, like, she lived in a high-rise. I got off the bus and like all of the street lights in that area were out, and I was like, oh, good. I'm going to be killed now. And I've been messaging with my cousin at the time, and I just sent her my live location because I was like, oh, it's a bit creepy. But I didn't bother to explain that to her. And then my internet, my data cut out because it went through like a dead zone as I was crossing like towards the tower block. And I was like, oh no. And my cousin rings me like, what the hell is going on? You just sent me your live location and then it just stopped. I was like, I'm really sorry. I was just trying to pick up some jewelry that I bought. But everything was fine. But yeah, I could really easily be kidnapped, couldn't I? If you're listening to this, please do not try and kidnap me. Hi! Sorry about the massive change in what I was doing. I am now sitting down at my desk rather than standing up because I got very frustrated at the internet keep crashing. A man we later know is Unit Chief Aaron Hotshire. He is building a crib and discussing baby names with his wife Hayley. By the way, these baby names are fucking terrible. Like, I can't imagine anyone in like 2005 naming their kid Donald or Butch. Like, do write in if you're like a 20-year-old called Donald or Butch. But I'm thinking that's not super popular. I don't know why they were suggesting those. Now, Hayley jumps in with, oh, what about Gideon? And if you're a new viewer, if your first interaction with Criminal Minds is listening to our podcast, first of all, thank you. I don't know how you've stayed with it this long because we've had major technical issues, but thank you. So if you don't know this yet, Gideon is one of Hotch's fellow agents at the Behavioral Analysis Unit. So it makes perfect sense that Hotch just shoots this down, because I would also not like to have a kid that was named after someone I work with. Can you imagine? Oh.
Yeah, unless you're like the besties, then really.
Yeah, but even then, like, imagine if I was just like, oh, hey, this is my kid, Sara. And you were like, well, that's going to get confusing, isn't it? So, cut to a bar. There is Derek Morgan, also a profiler in the Behavioral Analysis Unit. He is playing serial killer trivia with like a serial killer trivia drinking game with 3 women who also work at the FBI. Initially, Yeah, initially, this sounds insane because if some guy had approached me in a bar and was just like, do you know how many victims Jeffrey Dahmer had? I'd be like, oh,
Help.
no, but I am going home now. Goodbye.
Quick open.
Like, that just seems like an immediate red flag.
Yeah.
Luckily, it appears he vaguely knows these women from work, and maybe serial killer trivia is a bit more common amongst FBI agents. But yeah, I feel that if any guy just randomly comes up to you and asks you that, leave. Just leave. It doesn't go well. So their drinking game is interrupted when Morgan gets a call from the BAU, and one of the girls he's with kind of goes, "Oh, BAU, does that mean you were in Boston with Gideon?" And like, he's definitely saying something with this when he was like, "I was supposed to." Like, he sounds like he is very forlorn about it, and there is a lot of drama that surrounds Boston that we're going to find out. So we cut to pictures of dead bodies flashing on the screen, and we are transported to a lecture hall where Jason Gideon is teaching FBI recruits about the footpath killer and how to build a profile. Then we get the word unsub, which is actually unique to Criminal Minds. Like, they do not use it in any other crime show that I've ever seen. Even other crime shows about the FBI, they're not like, okay, unsub. It really seems to be a unique thing there. But it's the words unknown and subject smushed together. Gideon then gives like a detailed profile of the killer. He has a stutter, he has an old truck, and obviously the people in the class are like, how can you tell he's got a stutter just from the people that he's killed? But we do not get a response because Reed interrupts the class to tell Gideon that about the Seattle case, and to say that Hotch and Morgan want to know Gideon's thoughts. And Gideon's like, yeah, okay, I'll tell them my thoughts. But Hotch and Morgan then crash straight into his office, and Gideon's sabbatical is over. Also, just as a side note, aren't these two scenes supposed to be taking place at the same time? So either Morgan is in a bar, in a dimly lit bar at 3 p.m. on a work day, or Gideon is teaching a lecture at 10 o'clock at night. And actually, no, it does seem dark when Hotch and Haley are in their house, doesn't it, from outside? So Gideon is just teaching a class at like 10 p.m. I want to know who signs up for that. I'd be like, absolutely no way. No.
And it's after 5 p.m. I'm like,
no. I'd be like, I'm sorry, I don't think lectures should actually begin at night. And I will just be attending lectures between 10 and 4.
Yeah.
So it turns out that Heather opened an email with a time-delayed virus that wiped her whole hard drive and left a message from the killer on the screen. And he's basically asking for someone to stop him before he kills again. The same message which the lipstick killer wrote. And Gideon, for no freaking reason, has a picture of behind his desk. Imagine, dear viewer, or Sarah, if you zoomed in and just saw a picture of like a quote left by the lipstick killer in like the 40s. Imagine if I just had that behind my desk. You'd be like,
what the hell?
Yeah. Stop me before I kill again. Why do you have that, Emma? I'm kind of worried. That seems a bit more like a trophy than than like just an interest in true crime. But But anyway, no one addresses that. And we get the first of 4 quotes this episode. There's normally a bookend quote at the beginning and end of each episode. Gideon now quotes Joseph Conrad, who said, "The belief in a supernatural source of evil is not necessary. Men alone are quite capable of every wickedness," which I think sets out the kind of direction of the show in general. Like, we're very quick to say people who do these horrendous crimes are monsters and inhuman. But the reality is that humans are capable of stuff like this.
Yeah.
And the only way you can catch them is by focusing on them as a human. Like, it's very hard to catch, a monster, isn't it? Because monsters don't have human behaviors. So, cut to an FBI woman who is talking to Hotch. It looks like she is higher up in the organization than him or Gideon. And she's saying, "I want an assessment of Gideon. I want to know how he is since Boston." And we get it again, that big shadow of Boston in the background. The team get onto their private jet. They don't say wheels up, which I know is a real bugbear of Sarah's. Sara absolutely hates it when the team don't say wheels up and they just get on the damn jet.
Because Emma promised me that they'd say it, but they haven't said it yet.
They say it in some episodes later on in the season, don't worry.
They've only recorded up to episode 11 and they haven't said it so far.
So anyway, the 4 profilers go over the case and the previous victims on the jet. We learn that he strangles the women with a belt because manual strangulation just takes too long. How inconvenient for this murderer. And cuts to Heather in a cage with tape over her eyes and a gag in her mouth. The unsub then appears to cut her nails with wire trimmers, which is extremely weird and disturbing. And I don't know if that's ever discussed again about why he did that. So cut to the profilers getting into the Seattle FBI office. Morgan is mentioning some behaviors that Gideon has that he finds weird, and stuff like, hey, I've stood between him and a door and he asked me to move. And Reed is explaining well, those are just common behaviors for someone with PTSD. You work in a very stressful environment, Morgan. I don't see why you are not aware of what PTSD is. And, after what happened in Boston, the big what happened in Boston again, the team are pretty worried about him. But Hotch reassures Morgan that everything is going to be just fine. It's like peak dad energy here. He then introduces the team to the Seattle field office. He says that Morgan is their specialist in obsessional crimes, and Agent Reed, which Gideon corrects to Dr. Reed, is the expert in, everything. Hotch then jokes about how they should remember his face because he's been kind of busting their chops for a good few weeks now. This is one of the last examples of Hotch making a joke. We will revisit this in episode 100 and just see how the character of Hotch has changed. Over the course of about 5 years, he sees absolutely so much that honestly, the humanity has gone from behind his eyes. He's absolutely everything is awful. We just try and make it less awful. And it's okay, thanks, Hotch.
But that happens in any job, really.
Yeah, I would imagine it's much more. If you're trying to hunt killers, I imagine it's much more. Yeah. There is no hope than. like if you were doing like if I was working in a shop still, like it's a little less there is no hope now.
Yeah.
I mean, yes, you do get people standing right in front of the shampoos going, excuse me, do you know where the shampoos are? But at least I'm just like, rather than
Winning the fuck away.
well, no, rather than just being like, there's no point in shampooing your hair. You'll just get dirty again tomorrow. Do you know that shampoos actually cause real big dangers to the aquatic life? No, I don't get that. It's got a chemical in that poisons the fish. No.
Oh.
Like, I do admit that would be me if I was working in a shop now. But also, like, this type of a job, hunting down serial killers.
Oh, yeah.
That's gonna fucking...
And the stuff they see as well is just...
Oh, yeah, absolutely gruesome. Like, most of the time, I can't even watch when they, like, if they've got stuff on the board, I'm just like...
How's that?
Yes, Sarah can watch a full-on medical show while eating her dinner, like someone actually performing surgery. And she's like, nice.
Oh, is that a bowl? Nice.
And I'm like, why are we watching this? I'm eating. Could we... Is there not a sitcom on? Anything that doesn't involve slicing into humans.
The gory the better. I need help.
So on the jet, which Sarah also hasn't had an issue with, didn't you, Sarah? About why the hell they get a private jet?
Yeah, why? And it's more so the fact that I get America's big. I get the States are like widely spaced. But sometimes they're going to jet to the next fucking state. In the northeast. Where I'm sure the distance between the states aren't as big as the states in the west. But, you know. Yeah. Cabin footprint, guys. Cabin footprint.
So, as it turns out, BAU agents don't actually get their own jet in real life. That's really made up for the show because, you know, it means that they've got an extra set and they don't have to, like, fill it with extras. But, you know, I just can't imagine being, like, on a flight, say, from, you know, Virginia to Dallas. And I'm, like, on the jet, I'm, like, taking out my headphones to, like, ask the flight attendant for a drink. And then the guy next to me is, like, looking through tortured body photos. I'd be like, could I move?
Yeah, that'd be true.
Like,
can you let me hear the back?
Excuse me, this man seems to be talking about massacring young women. Do you mind if I go? Like, either any other seat or, like, possibly at this point just that jump seat in the cockpit. Don't worry, guys. Absolutely fine to fly a plane. But yeah, no, I would be like, you know, you're just taking out your headphones and you're like, you know, I don't think Grown Ups 2 is that bad, guys. Like, I'm not a big fan of Adam Sandler, but it's got to be better than looking at mutilated corpses.
Yeah, really.
And now we have alienated Adam Sandler fans, which I don't feel sorry about because some of his movies are fine.
Yeah.
So the team begin discussing the profile. The Unsaba has a car that is capable of transporting a body, and he's willing to travel with a body. And sorry, is that not most cars?
Yeah.
Like, sure, the boot is small in some cars, but the majority of cars Like, you can fit a load of shopping in there. I've never tested it, but I'm pretty sure you could fit a body in either of my parents' cars.
Can't in mine. No chance.
No. Okay, well, there we go. Sara is definitely not a serial killer. And my parents might be, but I'm not willing to check by crawling into the boot because dad's cars have funny locks and sometimes you can't get them unlocked at all. So I would probably just remain trapped in the boot.
Yeah, let's not do that.
Yeah, that's not. So Reed then tells the group how many Seattle residents drive an SUV, and the team go back and forth between whether he'd drive an Explorer, which they dismiss as too feminine, or a Jeep Cherokee, which they think is more masculine. And I'm like, what? I've never looked at a car and been like, wow, I can tell the gender of the person that is driving that. Also, those are apparently the only two makes of cars that are capable of concealing a body. If you drive a BMW, I'm sorry, you'll just have to find another way to tell people that you are obviously an arsehole. It's that you're driving a BMW. It does the work for you. You don't need to kill anyone. And it sounds a bit like how a used car salesman would upsell you from the Vauxhall Astra. He'd be like, yeah, but this Cherokee has much more space, room for the corpse of your enemies. It's only an extra $500 a month. You'd be like, wait, what? What'd that guy say? So Gideon implies that the unsub needs to exert masculinity because he's compensating for something, and thus our first dick joke. So the FBI got involved after the fourth victim's body was dumped out of state, which Reed suggests means prior knowledge of law enforcement, like maybe he's been arrested, maybe he's a cop. And Morgan says, yeah, but he could just watch a lot of TV, which, I mean, tracks, because that's how Sara and I have all of our knowledge about crimes, literally from TV.
Oh, my sister. She loves true crime.
So do you think if a guy came up to your sister in a bar and just went, how many victims did Jeffrey Dahmer have? She'd be like, well, let me tell you. And this guy would be like, oh, no, absolutely not. I'm off. I think this girl's going to kill me.
I think she'd creep him more than he'd creep her.
We'll test that. We'll have to have your sister on the show one day. Does she actually watch the program?
I don't know.
Okay. We'll find out. So a local agent offers the team the suspect list, but Hotch says, oh no, we'll start from scratch to keep the profile unbiased. And I mean, this makes sense. But even after they get the profile, they do not actually look at the suspect list at all. And I'm just like, sorry, so what was the point? Did you guys not want to narrow it down at all? As we will learn throughout the first season, a lot of the profiles and the actual crime detection, I'm always like, I think this is just based on vibes, guys. I don't think this is actual police work. So I'm just like, I think I'm on board with all the local cops who are like, so you can tell what shampoo someone uses just by how they kill their victims. I'm like, yeah. Fucking nuts. So the local agent is like, hey, we need a profile by 4 p.m., by the way, because the unsub only keeps the victims for a certain amount of time. Morgan is like, oh, hello. He's really skeptical. But Gideon is like, no problem. 4 is fine. Maybe we'll even get it to you by 3. How's that sound? And the rest of the team is just like, what? So then we have something really cool, which we don't see in a lot of crime shows, and Sara knows how much I love this. It's a transition. Gideon is pointing to a photo that's on the crime board, and the camera zooms in literally like inside the photo, which is amazing. The team is at the crime scene. Oh, well, actually, it's Gideon and Morgan, and more specifically, it's actually just Gideon. Because while Gideon is looking through one of the dump sites for any evidence, you know, stuff the killer might have dropped, stuff that might tell us a bit more about him or the victim, Morgan is kind of out of scene with a beat cop, and he's just like gossiping about Boston. Like, the beat cop is asking about it, and Morgan's like, yeah, we lost 6 agents. It's all Gideon's fault. And it's like, I'm sorry, what? First of all, Gideon did not intentionally get them killed.
No.
Second of all, FBI agents do know that there is a risk of death on their jobs. Like, it's not like you ever think FBI agent and you're like, well, that sounds like a really kind of low stakes job.
I mean, career.
Yeah. It's like, oh yeah, that's one of the safest jobs in the world. Right up there with secretary. All you'd have to worry about is a paper cut. It's like, sorry, what, Morgan? And then, so Morgan is blaming Gideon for all of this. And then he's like, yeah. And then Gideon had a nervous breakdown. That's basically what he does. And I just want to be like, I'm sorry, lay off the guy, Morgan. What is your problem? Gideon thinks that the unsub is in his early 20s because of his youthful arrogance, which just seems like a real big dig at Morgan. And I fucking love that. Just like, yeah, hey, maybe when you're in charge of a team and you're trying to stop a serial bomber, hey, maybe then you'll have a bit less of a cocky attitude about the whole thing. But there's a conflict in the profile because the body was dumped like trash under the pier, but it was also clothed, which seems like a show of remorse. So how can the unsub be both remorseful and see the women as trash to be disposed of? Okay, we will be right back after this short break. Welcome back. So, cut to our comic relief for the episode, Hotch. Words that I will never say again. Oh,
no.
Hotch, come back to us. We're so sorry. I don't want the light to leave your eyes. So, Hotch and Reed are interviewing Heather's brother, and he's looking after her dog. A dog which does not like Reed at all. Hotch, yeah, I know. Hotch says it's the Reed effect, and that doesn't, like, that happens a lot, even with kids as well. And I'm like, I don't actually think we see it again. Like, something that happens a lot, but apparently never again. Because he is really good with kids, Reed. And specifically by that, I mean children. Not like teenagers, because as we learn in the next episode, he cannot relate to the youth.
No.
So Hotch introduces Reed as Doctor, and the brother says, oh, you look too young to have gone to medical school, which is how I feel whenever I am going to the doctors. Sorry, you don't look like you've gone to medical school. You look like you might be 17. And as it turns out, it's just because they're under 30. And I'm like, no, people that are under 30 are too young to have done anything. What do you mean you were born in the year 2000? Well, shouldn't you just be playing with Legos? Take your Fisher-Price stethoscope and stay away from me. You cannot listen to my chest with a bit of plastic that's in bright yellow.
Sadly, we're at that age now where doctors are younger than.
Hey, we should actually be playing junior doctors more. They have to not only save our fucking lives, but also they have to put up with dipshits like me who are there going, yeah, I'm sorry, can I see an adult? Why are you here? I didn't ask for the medical student. So pay them more because I'm a lot to deal with. So they deserve it. So back to the episode.
I think we're just alienating junior doctors then.
No, we haven't. I love junior doctors. You're the backbone of the NHS. I think you should be paid more. Hell, I think you should be paid whatever you goddamn like. I work in marketing and I somehow make more per hour than a junior doctor. That's not good.
That's crazy.
It is. It's insane. And, you know, I should be paid some money, but also junior doctors should be paid a lot more than me because they have a lot more responsibility. If I get something wrong, there's a typo in a Facebook caption. If they get something wrong, they've misdiagnosed someone who has a brain tumor.
Yeah, it's not good. Not good at all.
So anyway, back to the episode.
Yes.
We then get the famous Reid quote, which is, I don't believe intelligence can be quantifiably measured, but I have an IQ of 187 and an eidetic memory, and I can read 20,000 words per minute.
Nice.
And then he is blankly looked at by the brother, as I would do, like, and Reid just goes, yeah, I'm a genius. So Reid goes through a stack of magazines that are on the counter and discovers that Heather was in the market for that really ugly car that we saw at the beginning. Apparently, it's called a Datsun Z car. And I am fine with alienating people who own Datsun Z cars. They're really ugly. And this, I believe, is moral failing on your part. So Reid suggests that there's a natural trust between buyer and seller. So if you wanted to get a woman or any stranger into your car, they'd get in willingly for a test drive. So now I think that's a fairly unusual car that could be easily tracked through driver registration. You know, like, I'm sure that they had a system at this point where they knew which cars were driven by which people. That's how they would send parking fines out.
Yeah. I don't know how it works in America, but obviously over here we've got the DVLA.
Yeah, but I'm sure they have the DMV over there. I'm sure they have to register.
Yeah.
Hi, my name is John. This is my Peugeot, whatever a car makes. This is the registration. So I think, maybe they're going to look through the registered owners of Datsun Z cars. And that must only be a small minority of people in Seattle. Maybe they can compare that with the profile or the suspect list. Anyway, no. They're not even going to go on the web to search for anyone who is selling a Datsun Z car. Yeah, no, that goes nowhere. Hotch, Morgan, and Reid, who is spinning around in his office chair like I do, and it's like, this is kind of autistic coded. You really have, like, in some scenarios, I'm not sure whether they're trying to portray Reid, a 24-year-old, as, like, obviously the youngest member of the team, so obviously a bit childlike. That's why he's spinning on his chair. Or whether they're like, no, this is autistic stimming. We know what that is. It's 2005. I don't think the mainstream knew what that was in 2005. But so they're discussing the discrepancies in the profile. Why does the unsub cover their eyes with layers of duct tape when he knows he's going to kill them? And Gideon is just staring at a map in the background. He just suddenly springs into action and says, "We're ready to deliver the profile," and just walks out of the room before any of the other agents can say anything to him. Like, huh? What? Sorry?
Mm-hmm.
I just want to say, Gideon, you know there are other people there, right? You know you could tell any of them, like, anything that you had been thinking, maybe run it by them first rather than just surprise them and go straight out to a briefing. Never mind. So Morgan is the only one going, what the hell? And he says that Gideon is on the verge of a mental breakdown, like a nervous breakdown, at which point Gideon and Reed say, actually, they're now called major depressive episodes. Now, I don't think that changes the point that Morgan was making, which is this is a wild jump to suddenly make without consulting anyone else on the team. He didn't need a terminology lesson.
No.
He needed someone to be like, hey, Gideon, come back here. Just have a word with us first.
Share it with the team. Then you can go do what you do.
So Gideon then gives the profile with another one of those great camera scenes where it cuts from Gideon in the FBI office to a crowded street as he explains that the unsub can blend in with any crowd, and to the dump scene as he says that the unsub is smart and you'll only find what he wants you to find.
Yes.
Still, he says that the car must still be a Jeep Cherokee with tinted windows, which is odd considering they theorize he kidnapped these women using a Datsun Z. What? So he's got two cars now? One's really ugly and one can transport a body?
Yeah. What's the purpose?
Gideon also says all of the murders involved rape without penetration, which is slightly odd because we haven't heard that before. And you think they would explain what that means. Does it mean with a foreign object? Does it mean some other sort of sexual abuse? Like instead of vaginal rape, like oral rape or any other? It's never explained.
No.
Just let that flow right over you. Vibes. That's how you solve crimes.
Yeah, just keep everybody Googling stuff. Just okay.
So Gideon continues with the profile, and then he says, I know that you have already interviewed him. So do they look at the suspect list, Sarah?
I guess it's probably not.
Do they compare the profile against the people that have already been interviewed? Check vehicle registrations? No. Or at least they don't show or tell us that they've done that.
Yeah.
Next scene, a young woman walks up to a house, knocks on the door, and asks the lady, who appears to have an oxygen mask, if anyone can help her have a look around the house that she's house-sitting, because she just got home, the door was open, and she definitely didn't leave it like that. So the old woman calls up to her grandson, Richard, and says, hey, come down, help the lady down the street. And immediately you're like, bad idea, love. Why? It would have been much better to just go into the open house and take your chance with the burglars.
Yeah.
So Richard and the brunette look around when suddenly the FBI jump out, and the brunette, Special Agent Elle Greenaway, cuffs Richard. And then we get the second quote of the episode. This one, so they've all delivered by Gideon again. So Gideon says, Emerson said, all is riddle, and the key to a riddle is another riddle. And if that doesn't make sense, don't worry, it will do. They think they found the solution. They think they found the answer of Richard, but they haven't. So if you're thinking, that's the end of the episode, we've got 25 minutes left, what's going on? There are still some nagging inconsistencies in the profile. As the FBI search Richard's house, they know Heather isn't there. Gideon asks Hotch and Elle to interview Richard, and Morgan, for some reason, tells Elle to show a little leg next time. So the conversation between Elle and Gideon had actually gone well. Like, at no point was he like dismissive or I don't think you can do this. And Morgan's like, you know, just show a little leg. Like, in this pilot episode, I'm not warming to Morgan. What about you? It's better, but right now he just seems like kind of incredibly sexist.
Yeah.
And quite dismissive of people with mental conditions. So Elle says the only time she'll show a little leg is when she's kicking Morgan's ass. And oh my goodness, Elle, how much I love you.
She is a badass.
Yeah, she is. You'll see throughout this whole season that me and Sara are basically just Elle stans. Like, sure, the other characters are there, but they're not Elle, are they? So yeah, Elle says the only time she'll show leg is when she's kicking Morgan's ass. And then she confirms that she wants the job at Quantico, which, yeah, they can't just have all men on the team. Like, I mean, I'm guessing the government would have let them get away with this in 2005, but the network is like, I'm sorry, we can't have just a show with like 4 guys. There needs to be a woman. I'm really sorry.
And a badass motherfucker.
Yeah, and a badass motherfucker.
Yes.
I can't say that with my accent and have it sound like I'm actually serious, but I am. It's just those sort of things don't come out of the mouths of people like me and sound sincere.
You have to put on like a slight American tone to it.
I would do, yeah. I would.
Badass motherfucker.
Badass motherfucker. Right, and now we've alienated people from the South in America. I didn't mean to. Please come back. We're sorry.
Sorry.
So, Gideon and Hotch find the Jeep Cherokee, and I'm confused because I'm still hung up on that ugly orange car. But they say they're missing something, and the profile doesn't quite fit. Cut to Morgan in Richard's bedroom, commenting that it's like a little boy's room. And as someone who, at the time we first recorded this episode, still lived in a bedroom that was painted the same colour of lilac she chose when she was 12. Yeah. Shut up, Morgan. Do you know how hard it is to move furniture? Like, yes. You know, you are incredibly well built. Richard is like basically skinny and short and doesn't look like he could easily shift a wardrobe on his own. What's he supposed to do? Ask his grandmother on her oxygen, hey, Nana, can you come up the stairs and help me shift this wardrobe? I'd like to paint it. I'd like to paint my room. Like, I'm sorry, Morgan. People in the US also don't get paid vacation all the time. So, you know, when's he supposed to get the time to and the money to invest all of this into changing his room? Fuck you. in the second episode, I promise I like Morgan more. So the cops try and break into Richard's computer. Well, they try and log in via the password, which is written down on a post-it note on his desk. And Morgan literally almost flings himself across the room to prevent them entering this password. Like, imagine if you suddenly saw one of your parents about to fall for an obvious malware scam. Like, oh, the bank has contacted me nationwide. They're telling me that I need to resubmit my address and my account details via this email. That is the energy at which Morgan lunges across the room. No! It's like he's trying to stop a bullet hitting the president. Of course, he is too late, and the decoy password has triggered an auto lock on the computer. And now you only have so many chances to input the password before it looks like the computer will completely lock and just kind of wipe the
That's smarties with agents of the FBI.
Yeah, I've got to. I just don't know how there are people that are becoming FBI agents and they're thinking that criminals would leave the password for their computer on a post-it note next to it. Like, I'm sorry, that's absolutely not how a criminal would do that. Meanwhile, Elle, Gideon, and Reed appear to be in the loft next to what looks like a fully lit fiber optic Christmas tree. Yeah, I was confused too. And they're looking at the board game Go, which Reed assesses Richard is playing himself because the game is on a lazy Susan. And in a dramatic voice tells us that Richard's profile for Go is extreme aggressor. Now, I'm not a Go expert, but how can you tell from the game just half finished, how can you tell that he is an extreme aggressor? Like, you haven't seen him play any of the moves. I just want to know. Back with Morgan, he's trying to get into the PC and has 6 attempts. And Elle comes in to say, oh, there might be a clue on the computer about Heather's location. Yeah. Thanks. I'm actually an FBI agent. I did kind of think of that. It's why I'm trying to get into the computer. It's not that I just wanted to see if I could use this guy's computer to download Beyonce's latest album on freaking LimeWire.
Well, those were the days.
Oh.
What a throwback.
I know. I'm going to spend the majority of the first 5 seasons scattering in millennial in-jokes.
Yeah.
And then in about 2010, I'll give up and I'll be like, no, everything now is trash.
Yeah.
Morgan is just kind of looking at her like, yeah, I know that. And then Gideon is doing a quote where he's like, fail once, try again, fail better. And Morgan's like, what? Like, that doesn't help. And he says in response, do or do not, there is no try. And Morgan's like, wait, Gideon's like, wait, who the hell said that? And Reed cuts in with like, that's Yoda. Which is quite funny. So Gideon finds a newspaper clipping about the Boston case in Richard's room and decides to talk to him. Richard brings up dissociative personality disorder, DPD, which I think was previously called like split personality disorder. Richard brings that up like it's going to explain the differences in the profile, but then he starts winding Gideon up about performing CPR on an agent in Boston, and this leads to a discussion between Hotch and Gideon about how Gideon is coping, and Hotch says you can't be two people at once, which is kind of an odd way to say it, because most times you hear that quote as you can't be in two places at once. Yeah. But I feel it was a bit shoehorned in, but it did lead Gideon to the break in the profile. He knows what the problem is. There's two unsubs. Dun, dun, dun. So he determines that Richard is the submissive partner and the other serial killer is the dominant partner. So they don't bother looking at the suspect list. Like, at this point, you could cross-reference the suspect list against people who have come into contact with Richard. Yeah. What the fuck is this? Instead of doing that, Hotch is like, right, I know what to do, and walks over to Richard's grandmother and hands her a nice cup of tea. He turns on the charm. Oh, he knows how to charm old ladies. And he's saying, you know, I don't think Richard did this. I think it might be a friend of his. And this grandmother, this iconic woman, she's like, I don't think Richard had many friends. Which is just fucking hilarious. Imagine my grandmother, like, I've been arrested by the police. She's like, they're like, we think it's one of Emma's friends. And she's like, I don't think Emma has any friends. Like,
I think she's alone now.
Way to make me seem more like a murderer now. Thanks. She kind of suggests that maybe it's Charlie, which is a fellow inmate from when Richard was imprisoned. And finally, Morgan calls the Office of Supreme Genius, aka Miss Penelope Garcia. Oh, wonderful. He wants help breaking into Richard's PC, and she can't help. Something that we will also never say again, because in later episodes, Garcia just kind of can do stuff. Yeah. Even stuff that doesn't seem like it would be possible. Yeah. Yeah, Garcia can just do that. She's fine. So I will never again tell you that Garcia has refused a request, especially from Morgan. So Morgan somehow determines that the computer password must be linked to Richard's insomnia and his CD collection. Like, clearly Richard never had any pets as a kid. And he diverts every cop in the house into looking through Richard's CD collection for the most used disc. And I just don't know how you determine that.
Like, scratches on it, I'm guessing. I don't know.
Maybe. But he might have just, like, you know, if one got too scratched, he would just replay it. And also, this is 2005. You can rip music from the CD to your computer.
Yeah.
Like, most of my CDs have only been in, like, the CD player a couple of times, and then it went onto my laptop, and then I've played it out on my laptop ever since. I don't understand. Anyway, so Hotch and Reed are now talking about Gideon. Gideon says, do you know why he always refers to me as Dr. Reed? And the reason is because Reed does look really young, so they're worried people won't take him seriously as an FBI agent. So adding doctor gives that kind of extra, ooh, a doctor.
Yeah.
you know, that kind of gravitas when you're saying it to keep it even more seriously. Now, Gideon and Elle are visiting the prison under the guise of learning more about Richard. Elle finds out Charlie is dead. And the prison guard, Tim, who is showing them Richard's cell, lets slip that he protected Richard, and Gideon spots a keyring, which must be from the ugly car. And I have a question.
Yeah.
Do you keep your work keys that are used to unlock the cells at a prison on the same keyring that you would use to unlock your car? Presumably your house keys are on there as well. Do you think that's good, Sarah? Do you think that's reasonable safety planning?
No, I have to keep mine separate.
Do you think that also you might not be allowed to take the keys from the prison home with you? Like, they might actually belong at the prison and they stay there. You don't just get to take them home. 'Cause I'm thinking that you might need to, like, say, check those in and out at the beginning and end of your shift.
Yeah.
Like, they might want to keep a note of where those are. You know,
well, they might have a few copies of the keys, but I doubt every single guard will have a set. They probably switch them between shifts.
Yeah, because I'm thinking that would be an unworkable thing.
Yeah.
Oh, John's gone on holiday. He's forgotten to drop the keys off at the office, and now he's in Jamaica. Oh, well, I suppose we can't let the prisoners from D Block out for the next week and a half. Well. So anyway, I find that odd, and personally, I would like put my personal keys in a locker at the beginning of work. Like, so, Hotch decides that he knows how to get Richard to talk. So he instructs the FBI agents to take in boxes of fake files filled with blank paper. It just needs to have Timothy Vogel written on it, who is the prison guard. Cut to Morgan Reed and the musical password. Reed finds the only empty case and determines that the Metallica CD is in the laptop. So, insomnia, Metallica fan, that must mean the password would be Enter Sandman. Now, it's not clear whether it's Enter Sandman or whether it's just Sandman and then you're hitting Enter. Unclear. Never know. An educated guess, if you ask me, and it turns out to be a bit of a blooper because that song isn't actually on that album. I wouldn't know. I don't listen to Metallica, but I think someone on the show should have caught that. Like, just check.
Yeah.
So Hotch tells Richard that Tim is manipulating him. So Elle and Gideon are chasing Tim's car, and she wants to pull him over, but Gideon is like, "You're so impatient." But she says, "No, he's acting really weird. If I thought the FBI was on my tail and I had to run to, like, get rid of a body, I wouldn't be driving calmly, stopping at each red light."
Yeah.
So Gideon agrees. They pull him over, literally throw him to the ground before they realise that that isn't Tim. That's actually a colleague who Tim asked out of nowhere to borrow his truck, a Dodge. Well, hey, now we've got another vehicle that's capable of carrying a body. Also, I do not drive, so Sarah, you'll have to fill me in about whether this is a common occurrence for drivers. If you went into work and someone just out of the blue was like, "Hey, can I borrow your car?" would you be like, "Oh yeah, sure, here's the keys. Oh, please don't worry about the fact that it's also got all of my keys from the cell block C on it as well"?
Yeah, probably not.
So Morgan, Reed and Hotch are watching a live feed of Heather from the computer in Richard's house. So Gideon and Elle are currently actually chasing Tim in the Dodge. Reed and Morgan figure out that Heather is on a boat from the swaying ceiling light above her. Then Hotch tricks Richard into giving up the location by saying that Tim is actually blaming Richard, which cops will do a lot. Morgan tells Elle to wait for backup, again citing Boston, but she says Heather doesn't have time for that. So Tim opens the cage and Heather amazingly kicks him in the face and takes off running, ripping off the blindfold. Something that I would not be able to do, because she's still got her hands tied at this point. And I would be like, oh my God. And she's on a boat, don't forget, and boats are on docks. So she could easily just kind of trip and fall into the water.
Oh, yeah.
So she makes it to the deck before Tim catches her, but luckily Gideon is there. And as we know, Gideon and basically anyone on the team likes to do, they rile up the unsub. Literally, this man will have a gun to the victim's head, and throughout this entire season, the agent confronting him will just be like, yeah, you've got a small dick, dude. And it's like, I hope this works, because otherwise you have been so keen to, like, you know, make your snarky comments about this murderer that you've actually gotten a woman killed.
Yeah.
So, luckily Gideon is there to rail off insults at Tim until Tim chucks Heather to the side, aims his gun at Gideon just in time for Elle to shoot. And she is a damn good shot. Elle runs to Gideon, who was shot by Tim, but he tells her to go to Heather, who is blindly walking about on the dock. Like she cannot move properly because of the restraints. Yeah. And she could very easily just fall into the water. And it would be a bad mark on your record. If you'd been railing up the unsub, you'd managed to get the victim free, and then she died due to a freak accident. And also, I would be fucking scared if there were gunshots going off. I'd be like, crap, am I next? What's going on? Oh, yeah. So we cut to Morgan, who's telling Hotch that Gideon saved Heather, and that's enough for him to say, you know what, Gideon's fine to be in the field again. Cut to the jet. Reed is asleep underneath a blanket, looking like a kid who fell asleep in the back of the car. Hotch and Gideon are discussing baby names, which is when Hotch says, whenever Haley suggests a name, I just think of a corresponding serial killer. You know, Charles Manson, Henry Lee Lucas, which really would bring down the mood at a baby shower, wouldn't it? Yeah. Yeah, just a bit. You know, one of those games that they play, like, oh, how do you want to guess what day the baby will actually arrive on? Do you want to guess what are the other ones, like how long the baby will be, what weight the baby will be? Just be like, okay, so think this is one of the other games that we're having, so I'm going to give you a baby name and you have to tell me the corresponding serial killer, right? Let's go. Absolutely terrifying. But if Jenny has another kid, suggest that to her as a baby shower idea. Because I think she'd go for it. Oh yeah. So now it's not going to be a major plot point that's going to really interrupt your viewing of the season, Sara. And you have already watched the episode where he was born. So Hotch actually names his kid Jack. And now, I don't know if you can think of a famous serial killer named Jack, Sara.
The Ripper.
Yeah. The Ripper. Like, sorry.
Yeah.
So you don't want to name your kid after a serial killer. And so instead you choose the name of the most famous serial killer there is.
Unless in his mind he's like, well, it wasn't an American one, so that's okay.
Yeah, I don't know.
Hmm.
Either way, very wild.
Yes.
And you might think the story's wrapped up in a neat little ball of red twine from a murder board. But no, it's not. We get the final quote of the episode from Gideon. It's the Nietzsche quote about looking into the abyss and the abyss looking into you. We have that as Gideon pulls into a gas station that frankly looks like it's from a horror movie. I would not have stopped. I would have carried on. He goes in to pay, and there are hundreds of photos up on the wall. And I know what you're thinking. They can't all be shoplifters, right? How many people are shoplifting at this rural gas station?
Yeah.
Like, if that many people are shoplifting, I don't know that you have a store left to continue from. But Gideon eyes the red truck and tracks the cashier's stutter as he looks over all of these photos. And if you're thinking, wait, what? That sounds familiar. It's because the stutter and the truck were mentioned at the beginning when Gideon was talking about the profile of the footpath killer. Gideon plays it cool and turns to leave, but catches a glimpse of the cashier in the truck wing mirror as the cashier points a gun straight at him. Fade to black. So, Sarah, what did you think of the episode?
Well, for the first time watching it, it really grabs your attention, doesn't it?
Yeah, I'd say so. So, yeah. You think you're going to continue with the podcast? This is actually a ridiculous question to ask because I think we mentioned many times during the episode that this was a re-record. So, Sarah, shall we move on to the episode discussion?
Yes, we shall.
Okay. So, for interesting points, we have the fact that they used 4 separate quotes in the episode, whereas normally they only have the bookend quotes. Okay, so we'll move on to notable guest stars.
Yeah.
And this is technically a recurring character, but it's Meredith Monroe as Haley Hotchner because she played Andy in Dawson's Creek, which Sarah knows I watched all the time at uni.
Yes, and I've never... I know you're going to hear me, but I've never watched it.
This is awful.
Okay.
Do you think we should do a Dawson's Creek podcast next?
No.
Okay.
Next question.
Goodbye. So it's quite funny just because so she would have been playing Andy about maybe 2001, 2002. And that was obviously a 17-year-old character. And cut to 2005, she's playing a character that's clearly in her early 30s. So it's just kind of the gap between those 2 characters that made me think that's pretty funny. But it's just because Meredith Monroe looks really, really good for her age. Like, she looks incredibly young. And probably still does today. But yeah, when I first looked up the actors in Dawson's Creek, I was like, sorry, what do you mean that Meredith Monroe is like in her 30s? That's quite funny. So do you want to do the next 3, Sarah?
Yes. So we have Chayla Hostel, who plays Heather. And she was previously in The Man in the High Castle. And she played a character called Helen Smith, and she was in it for 26 episodes. And coincidentally, another 2 characters were also in the same show. So we have DJ Qualls, who played Richard Slessman. He was in The Man in the High Castle for 30 episodes and played the role of Ed McCarthy. And we have one of the Seattle ACAS.
Sorry, what was that?
Seattle
No, that was the Seattle field agent. The one that's like, hey, would you like the profile? And they're all like, no, we hate profiles, go away.
I do like that aspect. And we also have Hiro Kanagawa, who played one of the Seattle field agents, and he was also in The Man in the High Castle, but he was only in for 5 episodes, but he played the role of Taishi Okamura.
Yeah.
So they're the main characters that we've picked out that we were in previous, like, bigger shows.
Yeah. And, you know, I just find it so funny. I think there's another case of this later in the season, but when it looks like someone was going to cast their show and they just watched one episode of Criminal Minds and went, right, let's just get all of the guest cast. Right, scribble their names down, call them. I don't care what they're doing. I find it quite funny when you're like, oh, all of the guest cast were in the same season.
I know, yeah.
The same series as like, and not just like guest characters, they were like recurring or main characters. I just find that quite funny.
Very strange.
That's why I selected all of them. I was like, is anyone else in this series?
Let me check.
Okay, so now I think it's a good time to move over to the episode MVP. Yeah. So, yeah, this is something that Sarah and I are going to be doing throughout the series. It's basically we have to choose our favourite character in the episode. And so we decided what better way than to use Morgan's terms of endearment for Garcia and Spencer, which are baby girl and pretty boy. So, Sarah, do you want to take it away?
Yes. So our baby girl for this week is, drumroll please, Elle Greenaway.
Yes.
Because she doesn't send SWAT teams into houses with kids. And she's a badass.
Yeah, she really is a badass.
Yes.
And I think she could kick Morgan's ass any day.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Yeah, definitely.
100%. 100%.
There's no doubt about it. Also, I am afraid to tell you that basically me and Sarah, we mentioned this earlier in the episode, but we are Elle stans.
Yes.
Elle can do almost no wrong.
Yeah.
And so she is our favourite character, and we just give her this most weeks.
Yeah, you'll find out this.
Okay. We've recorded 12 episodes, and I'm pretty sure that for about a third of them, she is the MVP. The other ones on the team are just there.
Yeah.
Do you think that's a little bit like bias for us? Because I think actually we chose JJ as well, and then in some of them, it's not even a member of the. I think we just choose women a lot. That it's very rare that we would choose any of the men.
Girl power.
Sarah, it's time to deliver the profile.
Yes, so this is where we do our true crime recap section. And so first watching the show, I kind of got caught with the idea of the abduction method being what the episode was based on. But after a few failed attempts to try and look up a crime where women were abducted by someone posing as a car seller, I actually found the answer on the Criminal Minds wiki page, which is the first place I checked initially, but I dismissed it because it just said that they were mentioned during the episode. But however, we've decided that this true crime case is based on Lawrence Whitaker and Roy Norris, aka the Toolbox Killer. Now notice how I said killer and not killers, and that's because the press dubbed them that, the Toolbox Killer, because the police and the public were under the impression that it was just one person abducting, raping and killing these teenage girls. So I don't want to get into too much graphic details, but I will tell you how the true crime is related to the episode. So Whittaker was born in Pennsylvania on September the 27th, 1940, and put up for adoption as a baby. His adopted family moved around quite a bit for his adopted father's job, and as such he lived in around 4 states before the family settled in California. Whittaker supposedly had an IQ of 138, but he dropped out of high school when he was 17 after being arrested on several occasions for petty crimes. Shortly after dropping out, he was sentenced to 18 months at a federal reformatory in Oklahoma for leaving the scene of a hit and run, but then he got transferred to a medical center in Missouri for good behavior. After serving 1/3 of his sentence, he was released, but in 1960 he was arrested yet again. This time it was for robbery. For this crime he was sentenced to 1 to 15 years in a state prison. A psychiatric evaluation at the time said that he was paranoid and borderline psychotic as well as manipulative. Despite this, he was released in 1963. However, 2 months later, he violates his parole and is suspected of another robbery. Over the next 15 years, he was frequently incarcerated for various crimes, but the last one was attempted murder for stabbing a clerk at a grocery store. The next 15 years, he was frequently incarcerated for various crimes, but the last one was attempted murder for stabbing a clerk at a grocery store after attempting to shoplift a steak. How did he attempt to steal a steak, I hear you ask? Well, he put the steak in his pants to conceal it. And let me just say, when I worked at Asda many moons ago, it was pretty common knowledge that people had put meat products down the pants in order to take them out of the store without paying. And we'd later find out that they were selling them at local pubs in the area. And no, thank you. I don't know how other people do it, but I would not like to buy meat that's been down. Anyway, back to the true crime. For this crime, Whittaker is sentenced to the California men's colony in San Luis Obispo, where he meets Roy Norris. So a bit of backstory on Norris. He was born in Colorado on February the 5th, 1948. He joined the Navy at 17, and most of his service time was spent in San Diego, California. Although he did go for 4 months to Vietnam, but he never saw combat. In 1969, he was arrested for attempted rape when he attacked a female motorist. 3 months later, while out on bail, he was arrested again for breaking and entering into a woman's home with the intention to rape her, but thankfully the police stopped him that time. He was consequently given an administrative discharge from the Navy on the grounds for psychological problems and severe schizoid personality, which I don't know that the mental health problems are the reason to discharge him. I think it's probably the attempted rapes too. You know. In May of 1970, while still on bail for the attempted rapes, he nearly kills a female San Diego State College student by slamming her head into the pavement after bashing her head with a rock. Because she survived the attack, he was only charged with assault with a deadly weapon, which seems odd because the charge of attempted murder was like right there, really evident. But as a result, he was placed in a state hospital psychiatric institution as a mentally disordered sex offender and was released after 5 years because they thought he'd be no further danger to others, but in case you can't tell, boy were they wrong. Now, while Norris was serving his sentence in San Luis Obispo, he met Whittaker, who he claims saved his life twice. So now you can see the similarities of the relationship between Richard and Tim in this episode. Tim saved Richard's life and made him feel like he owed him, and they bonded over the horrific, sadistic fantasies of rape, torture, and murder. While still in prison, the two men made a plan to rape and torture girls together, but to also kill them so that they wouldn't be caught. After being paroled, Whittaker got a job as a machinist in Los Angeles, and 2 months later, Norris was paroled as well. He moved in with his mother in Los Angeles and got a job as an electrician. In February of 1979, they set their horrific plans in motion. Whittaker buys a 1977 GMC cargo van, which had no side or rear windows and a big door on the passenger side through which victims could be snatched. And they called it the Murder Mac. I give a nickname to a vehicle that's going to be used in horrific crimes. It's just... Anyways. So the pair did trial runs along the Pacific Coast Highway, occasionally stopping at beaches to talk to girls and take their pictures, sometimes getting young teens to hitchhike with them. But they let these girls go without attacking them, and no one thought that was weird enough to report to the police. But in June of that year, they abducted their first victim, 16-year-old Lucinda Schaefer. They forced her into the truck, duct taped her mouth, and bound her ankles and wrists, just like you see with Heather on the episode. They then raped, tortured, and killed her on a trail on a nearby mountain and dumped her body in the canyon. A month later, they abducted an 18-year-old female named Andrea Hall. Again, they raped her and taunted her by encouraging her to scream when no one could hear her before they killed her also. In September of that year, they abducted 2 girls, 15-year-old Jackie Gilliam and 13-year-old Leah Lamb. Whittaker actually punched Gilliam in the head to stop her escaping from the van. The 2 girls were held captive for 2 days. The men tortured them, raped Jackie, and recorded their awful crimes before they murdered both girls. I think this part also alludes to the live feed of Heather in the episode. At the end of September, a woman that they had abducted and raped somehow managed to escape and reported the assault to the authorities. She later positively identified the men from a mugshot. At the end of October, the men abducted and murdered their last victim, Shirley Ledford. They decided to dump her body on a lawn in Hermosa Beach instead of in the wilderness because they wanted to see what the media would print about. Unlike the previous victims, her body was incredibly easy to find, and in fact it was found by a jogger the next day, who at first mistook her for an outrageous Halloween decoration. All of the girls were killed by strangulation, using a wire coat hanger that they twisted around the girls' necks with a pair of pliers, as they found manual strangulation to be too hard. Or they stabbed them with ice picks through the ear and into their brain. These are also the method used to kill the women in this first episode of Coming On. So, due to the ways that the women were killed, the media nicknamed the men the Toolbox Killer because at first they think it's just one sick fuck. And police are apparently not pursuing evident leads that glaringly obvious, but... And in a completely idiotic move, these 2 numbnuts are only really caught because Norris brags about the rapes and murders to a friend of theirs from prison, Joseph Jackson, who initially thought that the stories were lies until Shirley's body was discovered. Emma had previously heard on another podcast about the Toolbox Killers that Jackson was worried about the safety of his own 13-year-old daughter following Norris's confession. Perhaps this is what prompted him to reveal to his lawyer what Norris had told him, and the lawyer then passed the information on to LAPD. 2 police detectives began to follow Norris and arrested him for marijuana possession and a parole violation, which is a bit weird because I thought they would have arrested him straight away on the rape and murder, but I suppose they've got to follow up leads first and get the evidence that they need. But maybe they were just trying to get him off the street as soon as possible, and they caught him dealing marijuana, so that was the easiest way to obtain him and put him in prison. They then arrest Whittaker for the rape of the girl who got away. Norris admitted knowing about the rapes, murders and abductions, but he tried to claim that he was only an accomplice and that he'd been high on drugs in an elaborate bid to pin all the murders on Whittaker. When the police gave him a plea deal so that they could get Whittaker on the murders, Norris then pointed investigators towards the bodies of Jackie and Leah, finally giving their parents and families some sort of closure. Both men were charged on several counts of kidnapping and rape, robbery, sexual assault, criminal conspiracy and murder. Yeah, don't worry about the plea deal. Audio recordings between Norris and Whittaker later proved that Norris was an active participant in both the abduction, the rape, the murder of all of the teenage girls, and he was later sentenced to 45 years to life in prison. The defence tried to call character witnesses for Whittaker, and the closest they came was a landlord saying that he was a good guy who paid his rent on time. Whoop-de-doo, so do many people. Not everyone goes out and kills people, but you know. In 2010, Norris applied for parole but was denied. In 2019, his parole was denied. In 2019, his parole was denied yet again, and he later died of natural causes on the 24th of February 2020 at the age of 72. Whittaker, however, was sentenced to death, and while still on death row waiting for an execution date nearly 3 decades later, he died on December 13, 2019 of natural causes at the age of 79.
Well, thank you for that, Sarah. That was really informative. And now we are going to move on to our What Would Penelope Garcia Do section.
Yeah.
So this is the section in the episode where we are going to point people towards resources or charities. Basically, if it's something that you personally need help with, or if it's something that you can help by donating, signing, writing to a politician, we're going to put it in this part of the episode because we think it's really important after talking about true crimes to kind of do something to make the world a little bit better.
I agree.
So today we are focusing on national rape charities. So what would Penelope Garcia do? Well, she would have thought it was suspect that 2 men were luring teenage girls into their van to take photos of them. So if you see something sketchy like that, report it to the police. Warn your local community. Create a buddy system so no one's walking home by themselves. And parents, tell your kids that no matter what they do, drink, take drugs, party, that you are a safe place. You will pick them up. They should never get into a car with a stranger. Just something I really wanted to stress there. Yeah. But Sarah, do you want to take it away with the England and Wales charity?
In England and Wales, there's a 24/7 rape and sexual abuse support line. It's available every day of the year, no matter what time. Just call them if you need help or advice or support, whatever you need. And the number to call is 0808 500 2222. This is a free phone, so it won't cost you anything to phone it. Or if you go online, there is a chat available.
For the USA, RAINN's National Sexual Assault Hotline is 800-656-4673, or they have chats available at online.rainn, that's RAINN.org. Both organisations do have translators for people who don't speak English or speak it as a second language.
That's all for this week. We'll come back next week when we'll be talking about Criminal Minds Season 1, Episode 2, Compulsion.
While you're waiting for the next episode, why not follow us on social media? We're on Instagram at lookingforamanhis30spod and Tumblr at lookingforamanhis30spod. Or you can email us at lookingforamanhis30s@gmail.com. All 3 times, 30s is spelled out. Don't put 30 or you might get one of those bots that keep sending me scam messages.
You can also rate and review us on whichever platform you're using to listen to our podcast.
Until next time.
This case is closed.